Hello, my name is Anjani, and this video is about using more of your organs of perception in making choices in life. So for the most part, we have been trained to use our mental faculties when we are making decisions about day-to-day things and also making bigger decisions about important things like moving to a new place or breaking up with a partner or getting in a relationship with a new partner. We're so trained and so dependent on our mind and reasoning and logic. We have not been so trained, and unless you went out seeking training on this particular topic of the heart intelligence, most likely you haven't been using that heart intelligence. So not to disregard the mind, this video is more about merging those two together, whatever you call it. You might call it using your feminine and masculine energy. You might call it joining your heart with your mind. You might even call it using intelligence or using intuition. So there is no separation. Like, we have to use vocabulary in such a way that makes it seem like there is a separation of things so we can clarify. But we also want to recognize that none of these things exist without the other because they are poles. They are in a polarity with each other. So when you're making a decision, to be able to run that information through the mental faculty down into the heart, and I even like to take that information down into my womb, down into the pelvis. Whatever organ you have in the pelvis, there is still that energetic womb where we can bring information down into that space on an inhale, bringing the information in. And then on an exhale, letting that information come all the way back up into our mental faculty where we can understand some sort of a language. And not to disregard the language of the womb or the language of the heart, because these are very sensitive places in our body that have a very profound language that doesn't use words. And it's going to be different in your body. I'm just going to give the example of when I inhale the question down through to my heart and down through to my womb, I get all sorts of feedback, and it's a lot of feedback. So it takes a few breath cycles to sort of tune in to these other areas of perception. And then when those exhales come up, we're bringing that information back up through the central channel, which your spine, you're bringing that information back up through the spine, up into the area of your brain, your mind, whatever you perceive as your mental faculty. So this is something that you can do in every single breath cycle. And it does take practice because we're not used to running information all the way down through our body. But this is a very, very useful tool for making coherent decisions. Decisions that are inclusive of the heart's wisdom and inclusive of the womb's wisdom or the pelvic floor wisdom. Depending on whatever organ you have there, doesn't matter. There is so much information in your pelvic floor, in your pelvis, the pelvic bowl, pelvic floor, whatever, in your lower body, in your pelvic bowl, we'll call it for now. So whether you are a male or a female, practice bringing information down into the pelvic bowl. And then on your exhales, bringing that information back up through the mind. This can be used for, the reason I'm making this video is because I wanted to talk about choosing herbs, choosing which plants to work with for making medicine for yourself. And as I started to make that video, I was thinking, well, this really expands out to every aspect of life. Just deciding what words to say when you're talking to friends, family, loved ones, clients, the person at the cashier desk. There is a great source of wisdom to be found within the heart and within the pelvis. And when you're able to have this coherency between all three of those levels of your being, every single choice that you make, every movement of your body, and the way that the words flow out from your lips is a continuous poem. It's just lyrical poetry in every movement of your body. Another thing that's coming to my mind right now is something that I read in a book called The Intelligence of Plants. And what the author is saying is that the heart itself is not actually a pump, that it doesn't actually have enough force behind it to pump all the blood through every section of your body that it needs to get to, but that inside of our vessels, that there's these little spiral tornado-like movements happening, which actually, when I read that, reminded me of the teachings of Kundalini, that all these little spirals within our body that they're just they're not waiting, they are continually bursting off. And that with all that energy in our body, it's very, very important that we're able to bring our awareness to those different energy centers in our body, and also having an intelligent conversation with our own heart, with our own pelvic bowl. This is happening anyway. There's already a certain level of coherency between these places in your body, but that you can strengthen that. And this is where you become so integrated with your intelligence and your intuition that there is no longer any chance for disconnection. Although, because we're humans, we still may pick the heart and forget about the intellect and make actions based off of only the heart. Like, that still might happen. But the more that we're practicing this day-to-day choices that we're making, the stronger this will get. So back to the herbs. When you want to make a choice on picking plant material to work with, something that I do is that breath that I just mentioned, where you're going to inhale, bringing your breath all the way down to the pelvis, and then on the exhale, bringing that all the way back up through the body. Now, in your mind, you're going to ask a question. What plant would be most beneficial for me to work with right now? You're going to inhale that question all the way down to the pelvis and exhaling that back up. Now, when you're inhaling, make sure that you pass that information through the heart, pass it through the pelvis, and then on the exhale, you're going to again pass through the heart and back up to the head. This might sound kind of ridiculous, and when you start to get good at it, this just happens without having to have all of this like, okay, I'm passing my breath and the question through my heart. It's not so analytical like that, but in order to learn the process and to start practicing it, the words that I'm using are the best thing that I can use to share something that is ineffable. Like, this is something that just happens. For people who are sensitive and intuitive, they may not have done this particular thing, but it is a tool that I have found useful in helping other people to find their own connection to their heart and to their womb or their pelvic bowl. So as you bring that question down through your body, don't expect there to be an answer that comes right back up instantly. And because in the expecting, your energy is sort of forcing something. You want to be able to completely surrender and let the breath move through your body, and it may take a while, but you're getting the heart and mind and the pelvic floor, the pelvic bowl, your womb, whatever organ you have there, you're letting all of these places in you get into harmony with each other. And so the information may come through first as like a gurgling in your belly, or you may notice a little flutter in your heart. You may notice some tingling sensations. These are not necessarily going to tell you jump out and get calendula. It might not do that. You may need to read up on herbs because maybe there's not, your body and mind aren't able to show you an image or something that you understand because you haven't actually learned that. So if that's the case, you can also go into an herb store. This is something that you can use for picking food. For picking food, going into the grocery store and asking your body to lead you to what it would like. You can go in, and this is how I discovered burdock root actually, and it really is a great tonifier for the liver, which is exactly what I needed at that time. So you walk into the grocery store and ask your body what kinds of things this is